Prater in the ball game. There's just something about that song, and I don't care what you're doing. You're going to get fired up for it. Little boys are back in town. Prater in the ball game. Prater's back in town. We're ready to go today. Heading over to our Double Tap Pub hotline where we bring on the CEO and I believe co-founder of 116 and West Marketing and Advertising Agency, Ed Moore, who's Prater partly responsible for this gem of a commercial with the Kendall Auto Group featuring Kellen Moore, Leighton Vander Esch, and now Chris Petersen. Ed, welcome to Idaho Sports Talk. What's up today, bud?
Thank you, boys, for having me. Prater.
What's going on, Eddie?
What's that? Okay.
Eddie's a good old-fashioned friend from way back in the day. A KTIK friend, an Idaho Sports Talk friend, an Idaho Steelheads friend. You're friends with everybody, aren't you, Eddie?
Well, I try. I'm just a friend of the open road, as St. Chubby Trapper's dad would say.
I even got one for you, ball game. He's a vandal.
Oh, sweet!
And I say that affectionately, Edward Moore.
I'm sending my son to sending him off to the Utes tomorrow.
That's right. He's living and working with Broncos in Boise. Okay. He's sending his son to the University of Utah, and he's a former vandal. You check all the boxes, don't you?
I try.
Sounds like he's in advertising or marketing or something, right? He's got no home team. He's allegiance. His allegiance goes to the next business deal. Prater talking to Ed Moore. My first question. I love the commercial. You guys every year. I think you guys do a terrific job. Fans, especially during sporting events, I think we love sitting there and watching the commercials of our players and our favorite guys too. What inspired the Kendall Group? Because you've had Kellen and Leighton Vander Esch in some previous spots. What was the inspiration this year, Ed, to add Coach Chris Petersen?
Well, I tell you, the idea for the spot came first, and so we were really just looking for a vehicle. We were looking for two things: a vehicle to use Leighton and Kellen, but then we really wanted to promote our new Bronco showroom, Bronco Club. It's the only one in the U.S. And so we were just trying to think about a way to use those two players. And then this idea popped up of maybe using Chris Petersen. And then we thought of what if we put him in a classic car? And the idea really started it. And then we backfilled the idea with contracts and agreements and a shoot date. And it's one of those few times where an idea goes from start to finish without getting somehow spoiled along the way.
That's funny you came to that word after the first one. Well, nice job, Ed.
He's Edward Moore, and he's the CEO and founding partner of 116 and West, an advertising agency downtown here in Boise. We're talking about the Kendall Auto Group, the locally owned Kendall Auto Group. I want to talk to you about that here in a minute, Ed. But the boys are back in town. A new commercial, new campaign coming to a football television near you. Kellen Moore, Leighton Vander Esch, Chris Petersen. My first question is: did you have to fire Justin Herbert?
No. We still have Justin Herbert in the old barn with some other Oregon quarterbacks. We've recently also signed Bo Nix, so we've got some fun things planned for them as well.
So what this is it? We just saw this 1 30-second commercial, and again, it's all over our social media channels. I know you guys have been promoting it, and it's all over the place. You're going to see it on TV 1,000 times. So is this the beginning of a football campaign? There are several commercials that are part of this The Boys Are Back in Town campaign?
Nope, this is a one-off. This is just simply to brand our Bronco club and Bronco showroom. And our Ford dealership. So it's a one-time only for this campaign, but we'll use Chris Petersen in some other stuff, just not this campaign.
Ed, are you getting, I'm sure you guys get a lot of attention throughout the deal, and Kendall does obviously for these spots. Are they noticing the Coach Chris Petersen influence? Is this one off to a pretty good start for what you guys wanted to do from kind of an attention-seeking standpoint?
Well, this is a great start. We've only been running it about a week. We debuted it in the last half of the Olympics, and then obviously it'll be in heavy rotation for the football season. The funny thing music rights like this, we have a very limited window in which we can run it. The longer the window, the more you pay. So, and it wasn't an inexpensive a song to use. So we've got it for a very short window, and then we'll decide whether we want to re-up it again for future seasons.
We were talking about that in our opening segment about, and I got a million questions, as I'm sure Ballgame does, about Coach Pete and his acting career. But you just kind of brought up the one little piece of info that we were curious about. You just don't throw on an old Thin Lizzy song for free. You're not going to give us any kind of financial information about the commercial or maybe the salaries of these guys, but give us a ballpark. How much does it cost to buy 15 seconds of The Boys Are Back in Town?
It's a low 5-figure number. Every song is different. There's songs that are owned completely by the artist, and you're dealing just with the artist. There's songs that are owned by the artist, but their rights are managed by a holding company like Universal or something like that. And then there's songs that are owned and the rights and the contract or the negotiation is done by the ownership interest or the like a Universal. So you're paying sometimes you're paying two parties, sometimes you're paying one party, and it just depends on, every song is different. It's funny when we Kelly Knopp, who you've had on the show several times, is our creative director, and we were first discussing it. The song kind of popped in my head. I'm like, that song. I'm like, I think it's BTO. And, so I'm searching Bachman Turner Overdrive, and I obviously, old age is creeping in, and but then I found it, and I'm like, oh, Thin Lizzy, right. So, and we originally contacted Thin Lizzy, the artist, and when it turned out to be a pretty small market sort of deal, then that dried up quickly, and we ended up having to negotiate with the clearinghouse. But it's an expense, and it's expense you don't see a lot in local commercials. So I think it really helps us when we use licensed music to stand out in the crowd. And
it definitely stands out. We guessed $25,000. Are we close?
Yeah, you're pretty close.
Right.
You're pretty close.
Okay.
So would you say?
And that would be for about a 4-month run.
Okay. So it's for a 4-month run.
4 months.
I mean, what's a ballpark? What costed these people more? Kendall Moore, the three forms of talent, those three names, or Thin Lizzy, The Boys Are Back in Town?
Well, with the athletes, it's very much a Boise kind of thing, in that this is a partnership that Kendall started with Kellen Moore, 10 years ago.
We have the Bed of Roses poster in our studio. It's one of the most important things that Johnny and I own.
Yes.
the calendar. Yeah.
Yes.
So, these deals with each of our athletes are very much personal deals between Kendall and them that are different than a typical just endorsement deal. They're really kind of part of the family. There's lots of elements to it that benefit both parties. They're not your typical, just dealing with the agent. We're dealing with both the agents and the athletes to really find a win-win for Kendall and them and their families. As you can imagine, Kendall has a lot of unique and access to a lot of unique and cool cars and transportation. So, that's part of the deals. And we just, we really value that as a partnership. They do a lot for us outside of just, starring in commercials.
Ed Moore with us, the founder and CEO of 116 and West Marketing and Advertising Agency, behind this Kendall Auto Group commercial with Kellen Moore, Leighton Vander Esch, and Chris Petersen. I bet they all three got a big time kick out of this. What can you tell us, Ed, about maybe those three on set, some of the conversations, some of the laughs, some of the jokes? Probably a lot of fun for a lot of people.
It was. And honestly, it was Coach Pete, hasn't done a ton of commercials. Kellen's an old hand at it, and so he's gotten, very, very comfortable. Leighton is a born actor, and the camera just absolutely loves him. So it was fun as Kelly and I are on set with the rest of our crew. It was fun just watching them reconnect. They talked, they all talked a little football. Coach Pete talked careers with both of them. They had a lot of notes to share. So, when we weren't shooting, it was almost like getting to watch a clinic take place.
Wow.
I don't know who had to make the first call, and we're talking to Ed Moore, local advertising agency, 116 in West downtown Boise, Kendall Auto Group, and the brand new commercial that's all over the place right now. Well, who had to make that first call and say, Coach Pete, do you want to act? And what was his reaction when you guys asked him if he wanted to be in a television commercial? I'm assuming he just didn't jump up and down and say, heck yeah.
Well, no, and he's a very professional and rightly so, cautious with his image. But again, it's very much how we do business in Boise, and I tell people this all the time. It's just, we live in a special community. So, I didn't call Coach Pete directly. I know a very good friend of his who happened to be an athletic director at the Boise State University, and so I reached out to him and said, hey, do you think this is something that Chris would be interested in doing? He reached out to Chris. Then I had established, do you like to be called Coach? Do you like to be called Pete? Do you like to be called Chris? Turns out his mom mostly calls him Chris, and everyone else calls him Coach or Coach Pete. So, it was one of those things. It's, in Boise, if you don't know the person, someone who knows the person. We're all 2 degrees of separation, especially business for, we're in our 27th year now. So, it's just one of those things. You know who to call.
Prater in the ball game, KTIK, the ticket. Who would you say? I guess it's Leighton Vander Esch, but I mean, the best overall actor in this thing, or if you guys were going to take this thing to another level, or, if you can get them together to do something else, what's in your mind there, Ed?
Well, this particular spot wasn't super heavy duty in the acting category. I think the hardest part, the hardest part for Coach Pete was, he's like, 3 on the tree. I've never heard of that. And I'm like, well, it's just like on the ground. It's an H up here on the wheel stem. So we had to, go over the whole 3 on the tree manual transmission thing in that old Bronco. And that was the hardest part of it. And I kind of alluded to this earlier, but Leighton Vander Esch is going to have a career in front of a camera somehow, some way, I think. I mean, that's just my own prediction, as I don't have any inside knowledge to this, but the dude absolutely has great charisma in front of the camera. And Kellen, his whole persona just he comes across as himself, which is exactly what people love about him.
Yes.
He's just this super kind, nice dude who happens to be amazingly talented and one of the best football minds in the country.
My favorite part, though, was about 0.5 seconds with Coach Pete in that old classic Broncos, kind of a little mini peel out. It lasted and you got that little lurch. And I don't know if that was by accident or if it was just Chris Petersen flashing a little personality. That stuff I couldn't stop laughing at that one.
Well, you've been around plenty of old coaches, and they like to remind their players who got them there.
That was a very subtle sign and very nicely done.
Ah, man, Prater, appreciate this. So for 4 months, you said roughly, that's the Thin Lizzy clock. We're going to see this sucker airing throughout Boise State's football season, essentially, Ed?
Yeah, you'll see this during some football games, probably a lot of professional games as well this fall, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Will we see Bo Nix this fall?
Probably not in the Boise market.
Okay.
And even if we do, we're really with these NFL athletes, that they're now into their season, and so they're almost untouchable. We probably won't shoot something with Bo until after the season's over. And then it's likely that it'll be more in the Eugene and Bend markets. But we'll see. We're still in the early stages of concepting. Callie Mendonça, who runs our account, we were just going over today, and we have a lot of creative to work on this fall and winter for Kendall.
And Kendall is a former Oregon-based company that is now headquartered here in the Treasure Valley. Is that correct?
Yes, they are headquartered here in Boise. They were founded in Eugene, and they have dealerships in Alaska, Oregon, Idaho, Washington, and Montana.
Impressive. Well, Ed, I appreciate talking to you and learning more about this commercial. And again, people are just having a blast with this thing. Ed Moore, 116 and West Marketing and Advertising Agency. Appreciate your time, man.
Thank you, and go Vandals, and you guys have a great fall.
Appreciate you, Ed. Great guest there on our Double Tap Pub hotline. Lots of fun there, Prater. That's cool, man.
That's good stuff. Go check out that ad, guys. And again, it's all over our social media pages. You can find it on YouTube. Really cool stuff. And Kellen does look like a natural. I guess Leighton doesn't scream a natural yet to me, but apparently that's his background. And
yeah,
Coach Pete, all he has to do is smile, and the ladies just melt.
Women love Chris Petersen. They really do.
Yes.
Also, yeah, I mean, I was going to add to that. Like, if you're in Oregon, Kendall, you get Bo Nix and Justin Herbert doing some commercial. Oregon fans are going to love that. And then in Boise, you get, Kellen and Pete, who are two Mount Rushmores, and Leighton Vander Esch, a first-round draft pick from this state. Leighton's the local. Man, that's a cool idea, man. That's a cool deal. Send your thoughts. You guys like that commercial? What would you suggest? Maybe we would come back to this at some point. What would be next for that group? What would be an idea you would have? Text 208-424-9300. And we'll read some of those throughout the program. Beeler around the corner with offensive line coach Tim Keenan next. Georgia Southern, Boise State's week 1 opponent. Apparently, they are close to naming their starting quarterback. JP, let's get those details on KTIK, The Ticket.
Idaho Sports Talk with